Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Strongman Personal Finance. We got a sponsored video for an amazing company called the Montana Technologies Corporation. And if you want a sponsored video, see the pinned comment below. You send me money and I make a video about whatever you want. So let's talk about Montana Technologies Corporation. What it does. Is it going to 10x, 20,000x? Or is it a bunch of baloney BS? Well, let's learn about what Montana Technology Corporation is all about with this short video clip. And then we're going to go look at the financial statements because there were some interesting things that I saw in there. So let's see what this company does.
I'd be happy to. Good morning, Sal. AirJoule is a new technology developed by an American company called Montana Technologies. It is basically the world's most efficient dehumidifier, which sounds boring, but is actually incredibly impactful. We developed this technology to replace vapor compressors in air conditioning systems. In air conditioning, which accounts for over 50% of the grid's power generation capacity in cities like Dubai and many cities around the world, in hot, humid climates, that represents a massive carbon footprint impact. And this technology dries the air in a refrigerant cycle for air conditioning systems at less than 1/5 or almost 1/10 of the energy cost, therefore reducing the carbon footprint of buildings, residential, commercial, industrial buildings, data centers that use a lot of air conditioning, reduces the carbon footprint by more than half.
Yeah. What is your implementation roadmap worldwide and especially in the Middle East?
Worldwide, we are building the company to be a tier 1 supplier to OEMs, the air conditioning manufacturers like Carrier and Daikin. We supply the module that makes their product a lot more efficient.
Yeah, so that's...
Okay, so that's what they do. They basically make these little carbon efficient dehumidifier inputs that they want to sell to the primary manufacturers of air conditioning units, basically. Okay, so how freaking amazing is that? So if we look at the company itself, right, the current stock price is $6.34. This was a SPAC. And if you look at the overall earnings of the company, you notice that there's no revenue. Interesting. However, they do have earnings from equity investments, and we're going to dive into that in a second. So if we check out the actual 10Q, this is the most recent financial report as of June 30th, 2024. There's a lot on this balance sheet that I had to look around a little bit to kind of figure out what's going on here. First of all, this company is just a shell. This is basically a holding company. All they did was they did a SPAC merger. They became publicly traded. They took their technology license and they transferred it to a third-party entity called AirJoule LLC. So they took the technology and they just transferred it to another LLC. They are the 50% owners of this second LLC, AirJoule LLC, and they are splitting ownership with GE Vernova, or whatever you call it. So this is just a company that is invested into another company and owns 50% of that other company. It's a joint venture because to create this new technology, this company provides the licensing, like the actual, design license for the freaking humidifier, whatever they make. And then GE Vernova provides, like materials. I think it's called sorbents. Basically, they're working together, and they both provide resources to make this product a thing. Now, the funny thing is, I think we'll see it later, is that Montana Technology Corporation is definitely putting a lot more money into this. Okay, I think they already invested like $10 million or more, whereas GE Vernova, if I read this correctly, you put $100 into it. So I think Montana Technology Corporation is required to put more money into this in the future, invest more money into AirJoule LLC, whereas GE Vernova has the right but not the obligation to do that. So it seems like Montana Technology Corporation got more of the or less of a good deal. But anyway, so let's go through this balance sheet. Remember, this is just a holding company, okay? You're not going to see like profit and loss. So first we have cash. They have $34 million of cash. And they have $1.3 million of prepaid expenses. Prepaid expenses are just, let's say you have an insurance policy for 12 months. You pay it all up front. Well, okay, you didn't incur the expense because you haven't used the insurance. You have to amortize the insurance over the 12 months. That's a prepaid. You pay something in advance, and then you expense it over its life. So these will become expenses. This is just cash paid in advance. Total current assets of $35 million. This is basically all that matters when you're looking at this company, to be perfectly honest. This and the current debts. We got leases. Basically when a company leases something, they have to put it on their balance sheet. So, you're renting a building or whatever, it goes on your balance sheet as a asset and a liability because you're using an asset, but you also have a liability, which is the future lease payments. Property, plant, and equipment, they have about $8,000 of property, plant, and equipment. That's nothing, okay? Investment in AirJoule, okay? This is their 50% stake. Now, you see this huge number. Huge, like my you-know-what. $342 billion. Well, that number is absolutely meaningless, okay? Basically, what they did is they transferred the technology, the license, to AirJoule LLC, and they recognized a gain. They said, this technology is worth this much. And when they transferred over, they said, oh, now we made a gain because we transferred the technology over. So it's basically a bunch of freaking BS, okay? This number could go to zero in like a heartbeat, okay? That number is absolutely freaking meaningless. All that matters when you're looking at this financial statement is the short-term assets and liabilities. That number is garbage. Next, we go to their current debts. So they have $768,000 of accounts payable, accrued transaction fees. This is fees that they've incurred but they haven't paid yet, of $50,000. Other accrued expenses. They're spending a lot of money, $2.2 million. And then they have a true-up of shares liability. So when they did the SPAC merger, basically the merger allowed the initial investors the right to buy more shares in the future. So what they do is, like, you'll see these like earn-out shares liabilities. That's highlighted down there. And you'll see subject vesting shares liability. This is just the company saying, hey, in the future, we may have to give out more shares if the company hits certain milestones. And this is what we determine the value of this liability to be. Once again, the determinants are mostly BS. Okay? What you care about is, does this company have enough cash to keep going? That's really all that matters. Everything else is freaking BS on this financial statement. Because there's a bunch of assumptions that are based on, like, what is it, like tier 3 or input level 3 inputs. Basically, the accountants and the management are just kind of like pulling numbers out of their butt to determine earn-out shares liability, investment in Joule LLC. It's all nonsense, smoke and mirrors. Focus on the cash, focus on the short-term debts. That's what matters, okay? Now, on top of that, they have this deferred tax liability. I wonder if that was just a result of their gain. Their gain, bro. Their total gain. This could totally change, too. So, just this whole balance sheet's a bunch of nonsense, okay? Just focus on the cash. Shares outstanding, whatever. This company doesn't generate revenue. So if you look at they do, but in a certain way that isn't cash related. So if we look at their income statement, right? In 3 months, they spent $3 million on general and admin, $1 million on research and development, and $74,000 on sales and marketing. So they spent $4 million on the accrual basis of accounting in 3 months. They're burning through that cash pretty quick. Okay, that's just my opinion. $4 million on that. Okay, but they generated some interest income, $216,000, nothing. That does not compensate for how much they're spending on general and admin R&D. Equity loss from investment in Joule LLC. So when you look at their financial statements, they invested 50-50 with GE Veranova into AirJoule LLC. And when AirJoule LLC recognizes a gain or a loss on their financials, that flows through, and basically Montana Technology recognizes half of that gain or loss from their earnings on their earnings. So AirJoule LLC in total lost over $1 million in 3 months. And half of that was recognized on Montana Technologies Corporation because they are 50% owner. Okay? And then you see these other, change in fair value of earn-out shares liability. You're going to see all these crazy fluctuations because depending on the stock price and the likelihood of them achieving their milestones and blah, 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 you're going to see all these changes in the income statement. The income statement is basically worthless. Honestly, in this scenario, the statement of cash flows is what really matters, in my humble opinion. I wouldn't even look at this, except you just see one-time things. Now, you should look at it, but you get my drift. Look at this. Gain on contribution to AirJoule LLC. So basically, they transfer the technology over to AirJoule LLC, and they say, it's a $333 million gain. Yeah, just this, bro. Okay, yeah, whatever. When I started Strongman Personal Finance, I transferred my intellectual properties to the channel, and I recognized a gain of $100 trillion. It's complete BS, okay? But that's where this gain came from. The income statements, oh, they got a profit, bro. Yeah, they got a freaking profit. They're burning money hand over fist, but on the accrual basis of accounting, as they change these balance sheet items to true up the liabilities, you're going to see fluctuations on the income statement. So focus on the cash on the balance sheet. Focus on the statement of cash flows. Okay, this is the statement of cash flows. So as you can see, they have they had a profit of $194 million in the 6 months ended June 30th, 2024. BS. Okay. What matters is how much cash they burned. How much cash did they burn? $17 million. $17 million of cash burned. That's a lot, okay? You need to pay attention to this because I think they're going to burn through their cash. Let's say they really need to slow down. I mean, maybe they had they had a bunch of expenses because of the initial investment in AirJoule and all the transactions and blah, 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 blah. And maybe this will come back down, okay? But they burned $17.5 million of cash in 6 months. And they have $34 million on their balance sheet. So they will hopefully massively slash their expenses. Okay? But that's pretty concerning to me. We can see that they invested $10 million in AirJoule. So you go back, right? So they invested $10 million into AirJoule of cash. But they have this $333 million gain. It's BS. Complete nonsense. Ignore it. Okay? What they actually put $10 million of cash into AirJoule LLC. After burning $17 million. Okay, and if AirJoule LLC needs cash, GE or Montana Technologies has to put more in. And guess who doesn't have to put more in? GE Veranova. They have the right but not obligation. So basically, this company, AirJoule, could sink, and that could sink Montana Technologies as well. Or if Montana sinks, then AirJoule might sink, unless freaking GE decides to bail them out, okay? And the company generated $61 million of cash from the issuance of common stock. So we could see overall they burned $17 million from their operations, which is basically just being the 50% owner of AirJoule LLC. And then they burned $10 million by investing $10 million into AirJoule, which is losing money. And they generated $61 million from generating stock. Now, the problem is, going forward, how much money can they generate from stock issuance? I mean, the stock price is what, $6? $6.34? Okay, if this stock keeps plunging, they're going to have a hard time raising money unless some other company comes and bails them out. But if another company invests in them, then you get massively diluted. So this is a very risky investment, okay? I mean, I looked at it, this talks about how it's a joint venture. Montana, the Montana Technologies Corp, and GE Veranova did a 50-50 investment into AirJoule LLC. The LLC itself holds the rights to the technology, and they use GE's materials and expertise to help market it and develop it and use it and sell it to other businesses, okay? So I don't like this because there's a lot of obscurity going on. We don't even know what's going on with AirJoule. Where's the financials for AirJoule LLC? Because this is just basically a holding company. This is basically an investment company. I want to see the financials of AirJoule LLC because we don't know what's going on in there. Okay? That's a little concerning to me. Or the only way we know what's going on in there is looking at the freaking earnings account, and we know that it's incurring losses. So this is basically just a gamble. Hopefully this technology works out. Hopefully Saudi Arabia buys it all. And blah 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 blah. And, it's just a gamble. Okay, that's my opinion. But maybe this will 10x and I'll look stupid. But this is not a sure thing. I can tell you that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked sponsored video, it's $50. See the pinned comment below. One-on-one tutoring sessions are $75 an hour, and you can check out my book, Stop Being a Broke Loser, on Amazon. Stop Being a Broke Loser. It's an amazing book. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you later. Cheers!